Welcome to Ring the Damn Bell. I am Big Kev, your host, and with me tonight is an indie professional wrestling manager, goes by the name of Triple M, and this is the thing. So Triple M and I did an interview a month and a half ago or something, but I didn't like the interview because I think that he was holding back some shit, and I just didn't buy some of the things that he was telling me. So I think he skipped a lot of stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not publishing this. I want more. So this is what's going to happen tonight. Triple M. Now we are live, Facebook and TikTok. Just our shit TikTok, YouTube. Um, Now I'll give you 30 seconds to be Triple M to do your little thing, and then I want you to take Triple M and lock him in the closet. And I want Mike. Now I could do this, guys, because Mike and I are friends, so I
Yes,
know that
we're very good friends.
I know the difference, and I get that. So your Triple M character to a degree matches who you really are. I get that, but there's a lot that doesn't match with who
I
you
get
are.
it. I get it. I get it.
So do your thing, and then let's put Triple M to bed for now, and we'll talk to Mike. So
And if you're seeing this face, you know you're in the right place. That's right. It's that golden voice that keeps you moist. Your baby mama's number one choice. The one that's good to the last drop, like Taster's Choice. Triple M. And what can I say that hasn't already been said about me? I'm one of the greatest professional wrestling managers in Southern California. I have what we call the Triple Empire, aka the Golden Empire, a plethora of top tier talent like Slice Boogie, who I currently manage, Vito Fratelli, the Inferno, Principe Leon, and the list can go on and on and on. But Kev wants to get to the meat and potatoes of everything, so let's dive right in.
all right. So good night, Triple M. We'll see you maybe in a bit. Let me talk to Mike. What's going on, brother? So we're gonna kind of start where we started at last time in your childhood. Uh, Tell me about it. I want to know about your childhood, uh, where you were raised at, your relationship with your parents, with your family as a whole, and why you got into professional, or why you started watching professional wrestling.
So we got to start all the way at the beginning, and that starts on January 2nd, 1984, the day that I was born. And my father named me Michael Mark Martinez. He named me after my uncle Mike, who had served in Vietnam just before my dad had went to go serve in Vietnam. My uncle Mike didn't have any sons of his own, and so here I was named after him. Ironically enough, that's where the ego trip begins because January 2nd fell on a Monday, which means the first was a Sunday. And here in California, in LA, when it falls on Sunday, it's observed on the second. So the Rose Parade happened on my birthday. So you're welcome for the holiday pay, everybody. And then it was a pretty typical childhood. Both my parents are veterans of the military. My mom served in the Air Force. My father served in the United States Marine Corps as a first recon Marine. He suffered 21 shrapnel wounds from the waist down on February 7th, 1971, close to, I want to say it was the Cambodian border. Um, my childhood, there was structure to say the least, but I was a rambunctious child. The one thing I was always told is, Michael, you talk too much. And now it's what I get paid to do. It's funny because there was a lot of structure, and I just want to say this: my father is a great man. He did the very best he could for us in the situation that he was given. The
So
horrors are
let me stop you real quick. So growing up, my dad was a military guy, right? And on top of that, my dad, growing up, he grew up on a farm. You combine those two things. I was my father very structured with me. me being able to sleep in on Saturdays was me being able to sleep in to 7 o'clock, and he'd be like, "Get your ass up! You gotta get some shit done." Um, my chores and whatnot, and then I was able to go play and stuff like that during the week, regardless if I had homework or not. My ass was studying, right? So even if I didn't come up with homework, I had to open the books. Yeah, most of the time I was daydreaming. I would have been diagnosed with attention, whatever it's called, ADD or whatever, which the cure back when I was growing up. You're still a youngster. When I was growing up, a cure was a foot in the ass by my father. And although you wasn't
We grew up around the same time.
right, and although I was gonna say you grew up another generation, our fathers though sounded like you probably would have been about the same age, being there in the military, almost at pretty close. So did you grow up with that structured raising like I did with my father?
At a point, yes, and there's a deeper layer to it because not only was my father in the Marine Corps, but my father immigrated to this country somewhere I want to say around maybe 1955, 1956.
So I'm willing to bet then, since your dad immigrated to here, or like my father, although I heard 1,000 times, be thankful for what you have. I had to imagine that your father, if he said that to you, that was on a different level, because I imagine because of the way he grew up and he wanted better for you in the United States, right?
Right, right. So on my dad's side, we are very much the first generation of children that are born on this side of the border. Mastery of the English language was a top priority for him. Also, when he was growing up, it was children were best seen, not heard. There was a lot of heavy-handed discipline back then, and trust me, I got some of it. I do have siblings, an older brother biologically and a younger sister biologically, but I have stepbrothers. But that we'll get into that later.
Yeah. So let me say
But
this real quick, Matt. You talk about heavy handed. So and this is an interview about you, obviously, but there's things that I'm relating with you by, right? Um, I bounced in bars and managed bars, bartending for a lot of years. Now I've been hit. I kind of have a still job because of the discipline. I think growing up, type of a thing is like you think that's a hit, not compared to my dad. Are we talking about that level of discipline? Discipline when you say
uh,
that heavy-handed?
I don't know. I don't know how raw I can get in this interview, but
Dude, get
let's
us
just say,
raw, dude. I want.
um,
Come on, man. You and I are
let,
friends. You know what the fuck I
let,
want.
let, let, let's just put it to you this way. I don't fear any other man since my father's passed away.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay. Nobody can ever hit me as hard as he ever hit me. Okay.
100. Got it.
And to paint a picture for you, like if you didn't leave a soda on his coffee table. Okay. My
Are you
mother and
sure your
father.
dad's name? Are you sure your dad's name wasn't Malcolm Landry?
No, I'm pretty damn sure, and he let everybody know who Sergeant Joseph R. Martinez was.
Got it.
And again, I don't fault my father. He grew up at a different time. He went through the most horrible. He almost died serving for his country. So
Right.
everything with him, us growing up, was life or death. If you didn't look both ways before you cross the street, you're dead.
Right.
If you weren't aware of that dog that was in the yard 3 yards down, you're dead. So everything was that dynamic.
Right.
Uh,
You mentioned something about not holding, any salt against your dad. And look, in today's world, a lot of people would say the way you and I were disciplined would be child abuse, right? But
oh, and
what they don't understand is that you and I, people like you and I, who were raised by the fathers that came from the generation they came from, man, it was a different time back then, and they
it
tried
really
to make
was.
their kids better than what they were. So it was one of those things, am
Well,
I right?
yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. I'm no. I'm looked at as the runt of the litter.
Hmm.
Okay, my sister is physically imposing. My
Hmm.
big brother is physically imposing. I'm the dainty one. I'll paint a picture for you. My brother played football, varsity level, all through high school, defense and offense. My little sister, we'll call her baby Brock for right now. Um,
If she listens to this, what's your sister's name?
I don't want to put it out there because I
Okay,
don't
that's
know if
fine.
there's any legal
Well, Mike's
implications.
sister, just let you know that he called you that. Don't come looking for
Oh
me.
no, no, I've told her this to her face. But Josie had 8 sacks her first season. Eight
Wow.
sacks as a nose tackle, as a female. Uh,
Now, was this for the boys' team?
yeah, yeah. She swam. She played water polo. She tried cheerleading, but she didn't. That wasn't for her. She wanted to be on the field. Myself, I lettered in badminton. Now I know what you're all gonna say. Now remember, it's still an Olympic sport, so I played an Olympic sport. Okay, but I've always been more of the character in drama. But getting back to the earlier childhood, yeah, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And like you, I've suffered from ADHD my whole life, but was not allowed to be diagnosed with it because that's a flaw. A flaw is a weakness. A weakness can get you killed in war. So, because of my father's upbringing, I learned how to make it work for me and be hyper aware, be able to be mentally in a few places at the same time, and
So, Mike,
still
let me stop you.
function.
So, what was the answer for your ADHD, like mine was basically a kick in the ass?
Mhm,
Is that what?
mhm, mhm. Very much so. Very much so. Not to say that I'm not a smart person. I was in GATE all through elementary school, which is the program for the gifted children. The only complaint was he's too curious, he asks too many questions, and he talks too much. Now, the first two, you really can't get mad at a child for being curious and asking questions about those curiosities, because how else are we supposed to learn, right? I kind of fell in love with pro wrestling though when I was like maybe 4 or 5.
So, I
My
want to go
cousins
back
watched.
though. I don't want to go to wrestling yet. Um,
Okay.
I, let's stay on your dad for a second because it sounds like I ended up being very close to my father, very close, even though he was so hard on me. Um, and my father's no longer here either. Like your father is no longer here. Was there a time because of the way you were brought up with your father that there was a wedge between the two of you, and you kind of wanted to do your own thing away from your father?
That's exactly why I ran straight into an army contract. Okay.
Now, also,
High.
but I have to ask you this: at the same time, was it this need that you had for approval as well? Because look, if your father was like, I didn't
Oh
hear that
yeah.
I was too, I didn't hear that my dad was proud of me too very often. So even though I was trying to get away from my father for a lot of the things, because of how strict he was, at the same time, I still wanted that approval. Were you much like that?
There were certain moments my father was proud of me, right? And it was a harsh approval system. Physically, I didn't make him proud. Athletically, I didn't make him proud. When I would speak in front of crowds in high school, when I joined ASB, when I would do certain things academically, he was proud of me. But at the same time, he would tell me I could fuck up a wet dream in a whorehouse. Okay. So very much so, I seek my father's approval even now after his death. But I kind of understand more now. Everything came to light after he passed away in 2018. And the best way I can describe it, and some anime fans might get it, is there's an anime called Inuyasha. And Inuyasha has this sword that his father made. It's made from his fang, and the sword protects him. Okay. Then the sword breaks, and it has to be reforged with Inuyasha's fang, and he needs to learn how to protect himself. Okay. As hard as my father was on me, it served the purpose to make sure, even though my siblings are bigger and stronger than I am, that I'm just that much tougher.
Right.
I can deal with the stresses of life like nobody else.
So
And
let me
and,
ask you
and
this.
given
Go ahead. Go ahead.
and you know the current situation I'm in with my fiance and I function on a level where I can operate. I have to go to work, but I'm still very focused on that. So although the upbringing was hard, it served a purpose to teach me how to navigate this world.
So let me ask you this: were you able to really tie that relationship back with your father before he passed away?
Yes, yes.
So that good, good. Because again, me and my dad, even with me and my dad being close before he died, there's still a lot of regrets that I have because of that rebellious stage that I went through. But I want to talk about that with you. You said that there was that wedge between your father because of that harsh discipline, that which I understand. I went through it. What type of things were you getting into, or that you were doing that, or what was that wedge?
Um, it really didn't have anything to do with me in school because I was a saint there. I mean, minus the time I got suspended, but he never found out about it.
Yeah.
Not
But I'm
till
sure,
not till
did
he
this
was.
wedge come later in life though, as you got older? Because that's whenever I
It,
get it. Whenever I was older.
it was more my formative years, getting into my 20s, as I was getting into marriage. Kind of some like young bull, old bull kind of stuff. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Him trying to still have his hand on the wheel of my life, where it's like, no, man, I got this. I got this. I gotta drive my own train now. I'm having kids now. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it was my kids that bridged the gap,
Right,
right?
right.
Because he was completely different with my kids than he was with. Ooh, if Joshua messed up and I was gonna correct him for it, no, you save that shit for your house. It ain't going down here. You
Yeah,
let him be a kid.
didn't that shit piss you off though? Because I
No,
know what you're saying.
no.
Unfortunately, my dad was only able to meet my daughter uh once or twice. The last time he seen her was for her first birthday. We went back home to Louisiana. And I remember that she was crying just because she was spoiled. I had her spoiled, and I was like, Zoe, stop crying. And my dad was like, boy, you did it. Or fuss at her. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Um, but I want to know before your kids though. So I remember a time with my father that was probably one of the only times I decided to mouth off to him because I was afraid of my dad. And that's not a man in this world I'm afraid of. I was afraid of my dad. But I remember me mouthing off to my dad, and he grabbed me by my neck, threw me outside in the backyard, and said, "Boy, if you want to be the man in this house, then you gotta basically beat me." And I'm like, "No, sir." Did you ever go through something like that with your father?
Yeah,
You
he
were
was
a
a
kid.
Vietnam combat veteran. You know how many times he tested me after I came back from basic and AIT and he settled in with my unit? You know how many times, and to be fair, I will never had the thought of retaliatory striking. I dodged, I weaved, I blocked, I deflected, right? But I mean, he's an older combat vet. When someone's dealing with a PTSD moment, you can be you can be understanding or you can be retaliatory, right? And having grown, I've spent of, and this is not a slight against my siblings whatsoever. Okay, my brother had a different upbringing than us because he had a different mother than us. Okay, when I say us, it's me and my sister. At a point, my sister went with my mom, and then she jammed out and did her own thing in her own life. But I'm the one who spent the most time with him. So there was quite a few episodes, but never would I think of striking my father or coming back at my father. I ended up just kind of leaving the situation, going chilling at a friend's house for a few days until he was able to calm down naturally. And then after I got married, moved out of the house, and went to go live my life, things changed. There was a different kind of respect. When I was in my first marriage, at a point, I was shaking a sign on a corner for a tax place, working at FYE at the mall, and trying to get a job at 24-hour fitness. And then when I got that job at 24-hour fitness, I maintained all three jobs until I became a manager at 24-hour fitness.
Right.
Right. So he respects the hustle. He respects the grind. And that's what he taught me because even though he was a disabled vet, he still walked about I want to say that train station had to be about 6, 7 miles from the house.
Hmm.
Back and forth, rain or shine, going into LA, and his job was helping vets get their benefits. My father always did his best to provide for us, even after my mother and him split, right? And my hats off to him. I understand more as a man than I ever did as a child because I've gone through the divorce process. I've lived life now.
Hmm.
I've had it kick my ass, not to the degree it did him. God bless it. But I learned from the experience. Because of that, I'm not a heavy hand with discipline on my kids. I
Well,
point my
Mike,
kids. Most of my
your
kids are
first,
old enough
I,
that I don't have to, right?
so
So
yeah. So let me ask you this though, because I noticed the last time you and I did an interview, you talked a little bit about your father. Never heard much about your mother. What was your relationship with your mom growing up?
Um, we lived with my mom for a year after they split. And again, I love my mother. I have a great relationship with my mother. We talk all the time. We're closer now than we've ever been. But she was dealing with some issues stemming from the marriage, some substance issues. She eventually got better from it, but there was a point where growing up as a kid, when your mom is not around, that hits different. I was very like, kids would ask me, "Where's your mom at?" And I'd be like, "Oh, she passed away in a car accident." Right? Until like you really got to know me and I opened up to you, that was the story. And as a kid, you don't know how to deal with these things.
Right. Well, that's kind of wow. That's pretty heavy telling someone as a child that your mom passed away in a car crash. Was there any type of resentment towards your mom for some things?
When I was younger, yeah. When I was younger, yeah. Especially like I said, when you see everybody else's with their mom on Easter, on Mother's Day, on Christmas. Look what my mom got me for Christmas, right? Uh, and again, I didn't understand it as a child. It wasn't her fault. She was dealing with some strong issues, and but we got to a point, and it was my father that set me straight. Like, look, bro, I can have all the problems I want with your mom. I married her, but that is your mother. You only get one of those. You only get one of those. Only get one, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. She gave you life. She nursed you. She protected you from me. When I wanted to really get at you, she protected you from me. So you respect your mother. And ever since then, me and my mom have been very cool, great. We have an awesome relationship. I make sure to call her once a week. You got to call mama once a week. Let mama know you love her. But it gives me a healthy respect for the relationship that sons should have with their mothers. I make sure my children know that to honor their mother, take care of their mother, you respect your mom, you live in your mom's house, you follow your mom's rules. When they come over here with me, it's a little different. I'm dad, you know what I mean? But yeah, we have a great relationship. She served in the Air Force. She got kicked out of the Air Force because she ain't no stinking rat. She ain't no stinking rat. We're not gonna tell you where the jazz cabbage came from.
Mm.
But
So,
she also worked for the VA for like 30 years of my life.
wow. So into wrestling. I know a lot of some people that I've interviewed when they got into professional wrestling. Professional wrestling was kind of their escape, even as kids from reality. I know it was my escape. I grew up with parents who yelling, and I mean, you would think that they were killing one another. And they definitely had their problems. They stayed together until we grew up, and then they decided to split up. They stayed together for us. I'm like, what the fuck were you thinking? I think it would have been better if you'd have split up when we were kids. You didn't do us any favors. But I know that professional wrestling, not only was it a chance for me to check out of reality, even at 6 years old, it was also something that my dad would watch with me. So it was also a bonding thing as well. Um, was wrestling? Did you use wrestling as this break from reality because of real life shit as a kid was just kind of harsh for you?
If you ask anybody I grew up with, my closest cousins, my best friends, they will say there are two worlds Triple M lives in: the world of professional wrestling and the world of Star Wars. And these were my escapes from reality, right? Professional wrestling, I really got drawn to because there was an actual chance you could fall into it. There's a 50-50 I was ever going to become a Jedi. But my cousins Enrique and Arturo on my mom's side, they would watch wrestling all the time. When we were little, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, the narcissist Lex Luger,
Who,
right?
by the way, is being inducted into the Hall of Fame finally.
Don't get me started.
But
Don't get me
but
started.
so you but a lot of characters that you mentioned were characters I was familiar with as a kid, except for Hulk Hogan. Even though I grew up watching a whole different promotion, did were you watching WWF, WWE now, but WWF at the time? Is that was that the main one you watched?
Yes, until I got into like my early teens, right? But my guy was Rowdy Piper. He dressed different. He ran his mouth. He talked a lot. I was like, holy shit, this guy is me, right? And I was just hooked. I was just hooked. Then time goes on. We started getting into it. Now my father fucking hated wrestling.
Mm,
He thought it was hokey. He thought it was carny. He liked the women though. He liked the women though. But it brought him back to when one of my great uncles would take him to the Grand Olympic Auditorium to like watch Freddie Blassie take on the Mummy. And but he would host these parties for me, like these SummerSlam and WrestleMania parties. We'd go to the store, buy French rolls, get all the ham, turkey, tomatoes. We'd have a whole spread, barbecue, and like he fostered it because he would rather have me there than running around doing dumb shit.
mm,
Okay. But I really fell in love with the characters of wrestling. This is somebody I could be. And the escape was there were certain guys I gravitated towards. After Roddy Piper, I was a big Shawn Michaels guy. Because if you look at Shawn Michaels compared to everybody else in that roster, he was one of the smallest dudes.
mhm.
But he was hanging with the big boys. And I was like, I could do that. And then came Triple H, this arrogant, well to do blue blood. And I was like, why can't I be from Connecticut? Right? And then my cousin told me, have you heard about this show, Monday Night Nitro? I said, what the fuck is this? And then I got into Ric Flair. And then I find out Shawn Michaels and Triple H got in the business because of Ric Flair. And then I dig deeper and I find out about Buddy Rogers. And that's when my love for wrestling began. Because I'm not athletic, but I can be a character. So it had to be around my 13th or my 14th birthday. And it was me and my cousin BT. We're a bunch of letters in my family. We're alphabet people. And he's like, you really like wrestling a lot? Yeah. Because every party they would have a bounce house. I was starting a Royal Rumble and throwing all my other little cousins out. He goes, why don't you be Triple M, bro? You're Michael Mark Martinez. Run it. And then my aunt was like, yeah, Triple M. That's where the 3PLE came from. Triple.
So let me stop you right
And
there. So at this point, is your dad still alive at this point? So
my
did
dad
he?
didn't pass away until 2018. So I was already married for 9 years.
Okay, that's right. That's right because you talked about him being a grandfather. That's right. Did he take you to any shows that came to California or anything like that?
No, but he did pay for me to go to my first Monday Night Raw when it was still the Arrowhead Pond. Uh, it was Chris Jericho facing Stone Cold in a steel cage. Then Booker T did the run in. costing Austin the match, and then Austin stood out there for an hour drinking beer on top of the cage, in the ring, with JR, with Lillian, with the ref. It was awesome. It was awesome. My first WWE show.
Was
I
that
was
the
a
very first?
freshman or sophomore.
Was that the very first wrestling show you ever been to?
Yes, yes, yes. Um, and then then we get into high school, right? And I started a group, the RWF, the Real Wrestling Federation, and we're starting a backyard. Then one of my homies, he snatched it. So I made another one, the HWF, and then we put a storyline together, the RWF versus the HWF, and then we had it out, and it became the RHWF. And I was really into the backyarding in high school, really into it. So much so that I didn't stop until I was about 34, 35 years old.
So now, and I heard the story of exactly how you broke into the business even before I did our first interview. I know that you were a car salesman. Um,
Yeah.
so forget wrestling for a second. How did you do as a car salesman? I have to imagine you did well because
I,
you do have a mouth on you.
I did well because I treated it like a wrestling match every time. Like I had a ritual. Mike, you're up. And they stopped calling me Mike and they started calling me Triple M. When I would get a sale, they knew I got a sale because it was an M with the three in the corner on the sales board. Triple M got another one.
Yeah. So did
Okay.
you treat it in the sense you talk about you treat it like it was wrestling? Did you basically change your cap? When I say change your character, I don't mean change your name, but change your character to meet the character of that customer. Were you good at doing that? Basically,
Oh
being
yeah,
a
I was matching energy. I would pick up on vibes like as a car salesman. If you had like that hat that you're wearing, I would be like, wow, I've never heard of that company before. What's that hat? It looks cool. Where'd you get it? And then you're talking to me about the hat. I'm listening to your interests.
By the way,
Now,
it is. Well, hold on. By the way, the hat is Pinnacle Professional Wrestling right here in Minnesota. So if anybody from Minnesota is watching this, if you guys hear about this company, like having a show, go
I've
to
heard
it.
of Pinnacle Pro Wrestling. I've heard of them. If you know somebody there, put in a good word there, Kevo.
Okay, I do. I knew a couple.
Um, but I would basically treat the sales process like an extended promo, and the car was the event. Okay, not necessarily the wrestler was the event, and I was putting it over. But I was the friendly car salesman. I wasn't sharky. I wasn't pushy. You like this one? No. How about this one? No. What about this color? Yeah, I like that color. Cool. You want to see inside of it? Perfect. I would open the car up, all four doors. Thank you, Edgar. I appreciate you, Papito. My one of my managers, Edgar, really got me. I was good, but when I got with Edgar, I got better. You open up all the doors, you open up the trunk of the car, you pop the hood of the car, and you walk around the whole car and you point out key aspects. What do you like about the interior? That stereo looks nice. Turn it up. The I used to do a Matthew McConaughey test drive. You
All
know
right.
why? Because we were going to pull out of this driveway right here. That stop sign, we're going to go right. That next stop sign, we're going to go right. And guess what we're going to do at that next stop sign? That's right. We're going to go right.
So
This test drive is all right, all right, all right.
I have a question for you because I'm a dumb white boy. What does Papito?
Papito. It's a term of endearment in the Hispanic culture, right? It's something you would say to like your uncle or somebody that you're very close with.
Does it mean anything? Like, is there an English word for it? Oh,
Not
come
that
on,
I
man.
can think of, because it's almost saying like, "Hey, papi," you know what I mean?
Right, right. Okay, got it. Got it.
But
Got it.
like, yeah, Edgar really helped refine my sales skill. And honestly, you can go on my YouTube channel and you can go on Moss Brothers Honda's YouTube channel and still see the videos that I did for them. The first video I ever did for them, they're like, "You're a wrestling fan, right?" They're like, "Can you do an impression of Hulk Hogan?" And I was like, "Well, let me tell you something, brother. when it comes to the Honda Pilot, brother, you can even fit Andre the Giant in this one, brother. And they're like, perfect. We're gonna be back in 2 days. Can you get the mustache gimmick and some sunglasses and a bandana? That's still up.
So
Um,
you're selling cars, and then one day was it a? I think about you said it might have been a friend or someone else that was like, "Hey, you should be in professional wrestling." Tell me that story.
so backstory, it's one of the times before the inevitable divorce between me and my first wife. So one of the times we split, I come back down to live in my hometown of Baldwin Park, and I got introduced to Knox Pro Academy, and I was going to their shows, and that's how I met a bunch of people I know. Later on down the road, I see my two friends, Psycho Stu and Primal, are wrestling for a promotion called Destination Six Wrestling that is now in Macomb, Illinois. Check them out. Um, and I do what I wanted to do. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna cut a promo. I'm gonna cut a Ric Flair style, put on a shirt and tie, the whole nine, set up my little early Android phone and cut it, posted it, tagged them in it. Next thing you know, I get a message. Hey, this is the promoter of Destiny Six Wrestling. Are you available for a phone call this week? Yes, I am. Called me, and it's the promoter and the booker. The booker's name is Joe Money. We'll get to him later on. So he goes, so we saw the video you posted. How long have you been in the business? Well, I've been a backyarder for 15 years. Okay. What school did you go to? And who taught you how to cut a promo like that? I was like, wait, school? I went to Sierra Vista High School, but I grew up watching Roddy Piper, Macho Man, Ric Flair, the greats. And they're like, so you learn that from watching TV? I was like, yeah, you do anything enough times, you'll become like them. I like to practice in the mirror. They're like, have you ever done commentary? I was like, yeah, I've been doing commentary my whole life. I talk shit about people all the time, right? They're like, come up for our Halloween show. We're gonna give you an audition. Let's see how you do. I went there and then I got put on the commentary table. Then I became their ring announcer. Then I got that beautiful golden microphone right there was from when I became their general manager. In less than a year, I went from commentary to general manager. And it wasn't because of me. It wasn't because of me. It's because of how much those fans bought in and loved Triple M. I was trying to be another Ric Flair, diamonds, diamonds, diamonds. And then one of the fans in the crowd said, Triple M is a golden voice. And that's how the golden voice gimmick was born. I didn't give it to myself. Somebody else gave it to me.
Now,
He's now a very good friend of mine named Fred Who's It. Hi, Fred.
now, obviously, you had to make some mistakes when you first started
I
commentating.
know.
Do you have any? Is there anything that you did or said that was so embarrassing that it sticks with you to this day?
Nothing that's out there on record.
Well, put it on record
But
for me.
um, I had to find where the line was. And I was on the wrong side of it a long time. Too edgy. Too edgy. You were doing great and you went too far. Right? And guys like Shiloh Greaves, Joe Money, Biggie Biggs, Slice Boogie, Necro King have all helped me refine myself throughout the years.
Now you
Now you
mentioned
notice
Slice. Go ahead. Go
yeah, go
ahead.
ahead.
I was gonna say. So
Uh,
you mentioned Slice Boogie. He was actually on AEW a couple of times, wasn't he?
mhm. I have a theory. A lot of people I know and have worked with, have been in locker rooms with, are beginning to show up on AEW and Ring of Honor. I like to think positively and that the energy flows in a good way. That maybe that means doors might be opening for me soon. I'm
Have you
hoping. I'm praying.
Have you ever bothered to send any tapes to any of the?
It's funny you mentioned that, and I want to give a big shout out to Joey from the Hills group on TikTok. Hey Joey, because he's been a guy who's been busting me up, like, bro, make this video, start putting your tape out there, make this video. No one's gonna notice you if you don't start putting yourself out there. You know people, right? You know people who know people, right? Let's do it. So we're in the works right now. Someone very close to me is going to be working on a master highlight reel of Triple M. My catalog of work has expanded over the last couple of years. And I'm very grateful to every promoter who has considered me, worked with me, brought me on. Guys like Bill Chu, who ran traditional wrestling entertainment, took a risk on me early in his career. Guys like Billy Bonds of Relentless Pro Wrestling. Guys like Showtime Deshaun Jackson, I'm sorry, Jackson Watkins of Compton Mania. Guys like Shiloh Greaves, who keeps helping me grow. I mean, I appreciate. I know, I'm forgetting a lot of people, but I'm grateful to everybody that's helped me along this process because there was a point Triple M almost died out of the business. The divorce almost killed me out of the business.
So let's talk about your divorce for a second because you said that you were going through the divorce whenever you're kind of discovered, right? And the phone
Mhm.
call, everything happened. Do you was this kind of your silver lining? In other words, if this divorce would have never happened, do you think that you still would have been discovered?
No, not at all. Not at all. Everything happens for a reason, and I'm not saying anything negative towards my ex spouse
Mhm.
in the divorce. Sometimes people just end up going in different directions. They end up having different goals and aspirations in life, and they outgrow each other. I wish her the best. I know she's getting ready to get remarried. God bless them. Nothing but happiness. But being in that marriage, it would have, even if I would have kept pursuing wrestling, it would have ended in divorce eventually. Even if I got out of the wrestling business, it would have ended in divorce eventually. But at the same time, wrestling is what saved my mental health going through the divorce, having a place of acceptance, because I took it pretty hard. I took it pretty hard. Divorces aren't fun things, man. Adjustments to lives. You don't get to see your kids as much as you used to. You got to work things out with court. It's not Disneyland, let me tell you that. But without wrestling, I wouldn't have survived it. Without my current fiance, I wouldn't have made it in wrestling because as much as I like to take credit for everything, there's a lot of hands in who Triple M is and how the characters evolve. Guys like Trivical Black and Boom Shasta have helped me refine my character and possibly develop new characters that we haven't put out yet. Guys like Sean Black have taken me under the ring. Guys like Robbie Phoenix, a former Santino Brothers trainer, training me in West Covina and not asking for anything in return, just trying to help out a guy who really loves this business. And at the end of the day, I really do. I take this seriously. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that a door opened for me, for me to live the dream I always had, and to show my kids like, hey, never give up on what you really want to do. You never know when it's gonna happen for you, right? And it happened for me. I'm trained by Paul London. I have a personal relationship with Paul London. I've gotten to meet some really groovy people in wrestling. You met my auntie, the Royal Hawaiian, right? I've
Great
gotten to
woman,
drive. I've gotten to drive Gangrel home from a show and pick his brain
right?
because of wrestling. Now I'm gonna get to work shows that week of WrestleMania in Las Vegas. Check out WGW. Check out Winning Circle Pro. Check out Big Valley Wrestling. Check out Versus Pro.
So let me ask you a question. And I already let me see if you're going to answer the way I think the answer is going to be. So Do you use Triple M, the character, as a defense mechanism? And this is an example that I'm going to give you. It wasn't too long ago. Um, you cut a very, I was present when it happened, you cut very vicious, basically a promo on this guy. And you are very much in that
Which
Triple
which
M.
which guy? Because there's a lot
Well,
of
now
guys.
you know the guy I'm talking about. But you
Does
were
he
very
wear
much
anything
in
on his
that.
head?
Yes, you were very much
Okay.
in that Triple M character. You were. I know you. I've been. I can tell the difference at times. You're very much Triple M. Do you
Um.
use that character as a defense mechanism? Because one thing you and I have in common is we're both very quick witted, and you and I kind of shot off at the mouth at one another. And one thing that's terrible about me is even if it was with a friend, even if it was joking around, I tend to, if I know about something, kind of crossed the line at times. And I did it with you even, and I felt like shit after I did it. But nonetheless, you took it like a champ, may I add. But I
So
did. So do you use that as a defense
I don't
mechanism?
I don't use it as a defense mechanism. Um. In that situation, that was Triple M full volume.
Hmm.
Okay, that was full hill energy, no restrictions. Like it was just going in, and there's more context to it than needs to be gone over. I've never used it as a defense mechanism because it's kind of who I've always been, right? You may be bigger, badder, taller, faster, stronger than me, but I'm still better looking, and your chick's in the backseat of my car,
Unless it's me, but nonetheless.
right? I mean, to paint a picture, real triple M energy is what I did in high school when a guy spread a rumor that I was part of the LGBTQ community. Not saying there's anything wrong with anybody part of it. We love everybody, but that's just not how I identify. So how did I get even? Well, I had fun with his girlfriend all of senior year.
So, but look, how far
Is too far?
is too far with you? And I'm gonna go back to this situation, and I'm glad I got to witness it. To be honest with you, because I knew that I was going to do another interview with you. And as someone who does interviews, you know goddamn well that I was paying attention to that. How far is too far? Because
It,
I'm not
it,
a
it,
very
it,
sympathetic. Hold on, I'm not a very sympathetic guy. A lot of times, my wife always gets on me about that, right? But in that moment, there came a point that I was even like, "Mm." And I think it was only because this guy is. I think we both agree is somewhat slow. I mean, I don't think he'd be able to hang with the worst of them, much less the best of them who's used to, right? So how far is too far for you? Or is there not a too far for you? Because again, even though you were like you didn't cross any lines for myself, what I said to you was a little too far for me because I'm like, oh, I should have went there
you know what,
because
Kev? To be honest, I don't even remember what you said to me.
right,
Like
right.
to you guys, that was
It
a
was about your father.
monumental. Like
It was
it was a big thing to me. It was just a Tuesday,
right. Well, we were just
right?
goofing off, and this is
We
why
were,
I don't. This is why I
but
don't.
there,
Hold on. This is why I don't goof off too much and try to cut promos on people because I am quick with it, and because I do have this mentality of regardless if we're just playing or I'm really coming after you, I'm going to use something that's going to really be a punch. And it was about your father, and
oh yeah.
it,
When anybody mentions my father, like the gloves come off. We're just going
right.
for it.
But it wasn't like that. You kind of took it on the jaw. It was like, oh, that was a good one. No one's ever said anything like came back at me before like that. But in my situation, and I appreciate you recognizing that we were just goofing off, but at the same time, that was just a little bit too far that I went, and that's why I apologize to you. 'Cause I feel like shit. So
Well,
again, how far is
it's
too far for you? What will make you feel like shit when you're cutting a promo?
when I'm cutting a wrestling promo.
Yeah, because it happens. Look, You know, we
So
we
okay, if we're talking,
we've heard stories with Bret Hart with the whole Sunny Days thing.
right, right. So
I interview Baby Doll, who was in a promo with Jim Cornette, and Jim Cornette really kind of got to her by some of the things that he said, even though it was a promo. So, is there a too far
so
few even in wrestling?
um, and wrestling, yeah, okay, because you don't want it to become a shoot, okay. I don't want anybody really saying anything harsh that I don't know about first. So there's some unwritten rules. So you can go back and listen to a promo I cut on Inferno as he was coming up to challenge Slice Boogie. And Inferno mentioned the fact that he was dedicating his match to his father. So, being sensitive about my father, I reached out to Inferno and said, "Hey, brother, where's the line? How do you want me to play this? Because it's like you teed it up for me." And he was like, this, and this. Now, when we're on TikTok, right? When we're on TikTok and it's the wild, wild west and it's non workers, I'm going to put it in the polite term non workers. You guys all know what the root term is. Um, I tend to flare up a little bit more. I want that classy Freddie Blassie set my Cadillac on fire, right? Also, the individual you're speaking to, there was a little bit of a rivalry and a little discrepancy and some of the things that were being discussed, all water under the bridge now, right? But also I'm a tough love kind of guy. I'm not gonna put baby powder on your ass and tell you everything is okay when I know there's better inside of you. I also grew up in a family where we don't pull punches and sugarcoat things. We talk shit to each other for fun. Okay. We roast each other. I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley, starting out in the Boyle Heights, East LA area, working my way all the way to Baldwin Park. Okay, these are not rough areas. You got to be quick witted. You got to be sharp tongued. And you got to be tough as nails. Okay. It wasn't Beverly as much as I'd like to really say I'm from the west side of Los Angeles, California, and Brentwood. Triple M is from there, but Mike Martinez lives a very different reality.
So, let me get this straight. If you are cutting a promo of professional wrestling, you will check in with another professional wrestler to make sure that you don't go too far with them.
Yes, yes.
Although, although they should have thick skin because they're also in the business, but yet someone who is not in the business, a mark, if you will, which we're going to get back to that word in a second, a mark, if you will, you just go out on them regardless if their feelings are hurt or not. Like, isn't that a little backwards?
No, no. Because does anybody check what they say to me?
No, but I think a lot of things they say to you is because I think they have this idea that because you're in this business where people say shit to you all the time, that it shouldn't affect you. Look, I'll be honest with you. There are some people that will come in, and when we're talking wrestling, and um, it's like I never use the word fake. Wrestling is predetermined. It's not fake because you really get hurt. Athletes get hurt, but some of the people, it's like they're not in reality because they talk about the business like this is some real life shit.
No, right.
I,
And really, and those are the people I love to fuck with the most. Excuse my French, okay?
I think the reason why
But
they fuck with you though is because they look at you like, well, you're in this reality, in this business, so your skin has to be tough. Don't you think that maybe you say shit back to them, obviously, but maybe you should do it with kid gloves because something's obviously wrong with them mentally. I mean, I can't be any nicer than that.
um, I hear what you're saying, but I'm gonna quote Paul London. If you don't believe the kayfabe, how are they?
Right.
If I don't really embody that aspect of Triple M's heel personality, am I really doing anything for them? Am I enriching their professional wrestling experience by going, no guys, I just play a character. No, no. Get into that stuff. You know why? Because every one of them have followed me after. And I follow back because it's what is he gonna say next?
Right.
Who is he gonna go at next? What is he gonna do to the next person that comes at him? It's the kayfabe, man. It's the
Right.
kayfabe. You gotta believe in it. And if they believe in it that much, and it rivals how much I believe in it, then I'm doing something wrong. If
So
the fan is out kayfabing me, something's wrong.
right. Oh, hold on. So I
And,
want to
and
go.
just for the record, that word Mark is spelled with a C.
So I want to go to this word mark because it drives me crazy, and you do it too. When I hear, especially the fucking IWC, the crappy ass, punk ass internet wrestling community, I can't stand those fucking guys. But they like to call people marks, and often ask, "Do you know what a mark is?" Because most of the time
Mhm.
I hear a no. Now, a mark is a fan who is enthusiastically believes in the storylines and the characters, right? So, why is the word mark used in a bad way? Fuck,
It's
I'm a
not.
mark. I'm a mark. I
No, no,
love
no.
horse
Hold on.
racing.
It's it has multiple uses,
Mhm.
right? Because I've met wrestlers in locker rooms that I've watched growing up, and I mark out, right? Or it's like when you and your buddies are fucking with each other, you know what I mean, messing with each other, and you go, bro, don't be a fucking mark. You know what I mean? Like, don't be a jack. We have a similar term in the car business. It's a jack,
Mhm.
right? Like, if you say something funny, this jack, right? Right? So it depends on how you use it. Now, there are certain of those enthusiastic fans that take it too far, and that's when you go, oh, this fucking mark. Like, you
Right.
think, and I have a process at a show. Okay, I'm
Would
very
that be a
psycho.
smart mark? See, smart mark is the bad thing because these are people who believe they know everything. See, what you're describing, and maybe it's a generational thing because I'm 10 years older than you, or a little bit more, 12 years older than you. But like what you described, you said that you met someone you watched growing up and you marked out. To me, that'd be more of being out uh,
Starstruck.
starstruck, right? To me, the term mark means more in the sense of when it comes to the storylines, you're able to suspend that disbelief to the point that you're really into it. That's a mark. That's what I like to do. Um, a smart mark is someone, like I said, who thinks they believe in everything. And the
Someone
reason
who,
why I'm concentrating on
well,
this term so much is because I am trying to understand it, how it's turned in from being a good thing to a bad thing.
well, also, mark isn't only a wrestling term,
Right.
right? It's a street term. Look at that mark right there. A mark can also be somebody I know I can get over on,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So what I do at a wrestling show is, as people are coming in, I'm shaking hands, I'm greeting them, I'm sitting them down. Who are you here to see? Oh, we're here for Ted Maximus. I'm his mommy. Great. Now I know who my marks are,
Right.
meaning who I'm personally going to target to elicit an emotional reaction throughout the show.
Got it.
Multiple meanings, multiple meanings. Okay. If you're the guy giving me a hard time from the third row, but your chick keeps taking pictures of me, you just became a mark.
Got it. Now let me ask you a question. Going back to you managing in professional wrestling, it is funny because I'm trying to break the habit of saying indie or independent because I don't know if you've seen it, but I had an interview with Mr. Herb Simmons, and this man has been in the wrestling business for 50 plus years. I mean, he's received
Yeah.
he's received a lifetime award because of it. If you were anybody in professional wrestling, you've come across this guy. A lot of the guys who are legends has came across this guy, and he was, doing. And I understand what he's saying. He said that he hates the word indie or independent wrestler because in the business, regardless if you're a manager, a professional wrestler, you're a fucking wrestling manager, you're a fucking professional wrestler. It doesn't matter if you are on a mainstream program or on the quote unquote independent. And he hates that term independent. Does that
I can
bother you?
understand it. I can understand him not liking it, especially considering the history of the old territories, right? Which it sounds like since he's been in the business for 50 years, he traveled through the territory system. Us as independent wrestlers, and no disrespect, no disrespect to him at all. He's an honored legend in our business. But I embrace that term wholeheartedly because I don't work for AEW yet. I don't work for WWE yet. I don't work for one of these big corporate wrestling companies. We are all out here, non corporate, working independently. There's no exclusive contract that I am tied to, meaning I am free to independently act as a journeyman and ply my craft at multiple promotions. To each their own.
Right.
Tomato, tomato, right? It's just how I see it. I'm very proud of being called an independent wrestler, an independent wrestling manager.
Right. What speaking of professional management, and you mentioned you're not in AW yet, you're not in WWE yet. Do you disagree that within mainstream wrestling, I'm talking about your AEWs, your WWEs, especially your WWEs, it seems like the days of professional wrestling managers has kind of phased out. You see them a lot more in AEW than you do like in your WWE or even in your TNA. Is that something that concerns you as somebody that you are a wrestling manager trying to get into that part of the business, the mainstream?
Not really. It actually excites me because that means
Less competition?
no, it means they haven't found anybody yet.
Mm,
That means they're still looking for somebody, right? That means there still could be a golden opportunity.
mm.
So, and then, like I said, Don Callis, he seems to be the main guy over there at AEW. Um, it's
And you know what's funny about Don Callis is, as a professional wrestler, and I'll say it, people may disagree with me, but I remember Don Callis as a professional wrestler, and he's he didn't get over very well. Um, that's why I think his wrestling career wasn't as long as maybe he wanted to be. But as a manager, holy shit, he to me, I love him. He reminds
I
me in a way of a Bobby the Brain Heenan. When I say that is he'll say whatever the fuck he wants to say. Very
mhm.
much like Bobby the Brain
he's
Heenan.
he's very animated. He's very animated. He's like I love it, and I get compared to him quite a bit. Which, if I'm getting compared to Don Callis, I think I'm doing something right.
Right.
You've compared me to Bobby Heenan a couple times.
Mhm.
Other people have compared me to Jimmy Hart, the Mouth of the South. So, and I see, and I'm waiting. I'm waiting for somebody to be like, bro, that was your Paul Heyman performance right
Well, I tell you, when I compared you to Bobby Heenan, it was before I seen the vicious side. You go up 100%, right? So I do understand the comparison to Don Callis now, just because Bobby Heenan is kind of the PG
there.
manager versus Don Callis is absolutely that, mature um um rating or whatever you want to call it. So let me ask you this. Has there been somebody that they wanted you to work with that you either flat out said, I don't want to work with this person, or you may have agreed to work with them, but you're like, fuck, I don't want to work with this guy. You don't have to mention names.
Not once. Not once. Um, every opportunity is an opportunity, right? And typically, I don't work at promotions that I have any kind of odd feeling about. Not to say anything bad about the promotions, not to say anybody in particular has knocked on my door and I've turned it down. Um, I'm happy to manage pretty much everybody at this point. The only matches that, and I do appreciate them, but they really test my stomach, are those extreme matches. But if I was asked to manage somebody in that situation, I would go for it because it's an opportunity. Typically, those type of matches though don't require a manager because there's
Right.
just already so much going on.
No, I know, um, and I may be mistaken, but you're the person you've managed that may get the most people will know who they are pretty much in the United States. Wouldn't it be the Santino brothers?
It would be Slice Boogie,
It's
who
like,
is your current SoCal heavyweight champion, Santino Brothers heavyweight champion, Amped Up Wrestling heavyweight champion, and Winning Circle Pro heavyweight champion. He's also on the PWI 500, followed by Vito Fratelli, who is also on the PWI 500 and has held more than 6 or 7 different titles at this point between the here in the States and in Mexico, followed by Inferno, followed by Principe Leon, followed by Ronnie Angel, followed by Louis 54, followed by Sean Black, followed by King Trip, and the list continues to grow.
now, are you any of their managers on a regular basis, regardless of where they go at, or
Right now, I'm with Slice mainly at Relentless Pro Wrestling. Other things are being negotiated, but I tend to show up wherever Slice goes. I'm happy to pay for a ticket. I'm happy to support him and those promotions wherever he goes. He's had spectacular title defenses at Winning Circle Pro, at Santino Brothers. And if you want to keep up with some of the wrestling here in Southern California, there's a few apps you can do it on. There's the Thriller TV app, where
Mhm.
Santino Brothers regularly post their shows. There's the SoCal Wrestling.tv app, which is available on Roku and Android devices. Also, they have a website where you can stream the content. So there's plenty of ways to keep up with what's going on.
Cool. I appreciate and thank you. It's not easy to open yourself up the way you have in front of whoever watches it. God knows who. Um, I appreciate that. I really do. Do you have anything you want to plug before we end?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram at the number 3PLEM84. It's the same thing on TikTok. I believe I have my Facebook link. It's Mike Martinez, but there's so many Mike Martinez's on Facebook, you're never gonna find me. Also got merch available. We got the merch available over here at Triple M Merch. All shirts are $15 until April 15th in honor of tax season, plus shipping and handling, depending on where you live. You can DM me for more information. Also, keep up with the wrestling promotions I'm a part of: Compton Mania, Relentless Pro Wrestling, Amped Up Pro Wrestling, Valor Pro Wrestling, Wrestling Warzone, What a Drag Pro Wrestling, and more announcements to come. I will be at East Los Lucha this 30th in East LA at the Don Quixote nightclub. Follow East Los Lucha on Facebook and Instagram. And I think I will also be as a guest at the Knox Pro Academy Wild Samoan Cup at the Derby Room in Pomona. Follow Knox Pro Academy on Facebook and Instagram. Tickets are available now.
Cool. You guys check that out. I promise you that you'll be highly entertained by Triple M. Thank you again for coming on. Look, man, Wait for one of those shirts to be sent to me. I'll wear it on the podcast and promote it for you. On a week from Monday, I am so excited to have Island Girl TT. She is going
I
to
saw
be
that.
she's going to be on the podcast a week from Monday. Don't forget to check that out. And again, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Look, guys, I've been doing a couple of shows live on Facebook, but I'm not going to do that on a continuous basis. So if you guys want to see some of these awesome interviews that I'm doing, like one I did today with Trips, um, please subscribe to my channel. Mike, again, I appreciate you opening up the way you did. You guys follow Mike. We'll be talking soon like you always do. You all have
And,
a
and,
great week. Go ahead.
and one last thing. Please, everybody, help us control the pet population. Spade or neuter your ex.
You guys have a good one.